Tonight's Girl Crush is an inspiration to women across the world. She was a lieutenant general in the Air Force who's had the chance to look down on Earth from 240 miles above.
Susan Helms has a tendency to be first. She was the first active-duty military woman in space and the first woman aboard the International Space Station.
I didn't set out trying to be the first in everything. I just opened those doors. I just walked through those doors when the doors were opened.
And years before, she was part of the very first Air Force Academy class to include women back in 1980.
It was a moment in time for our country where a lot of doors were starting to open up for women.
She credits her parents and strong female role models for putting those doors within reach.
I kind of grew up in an environment in Portland, Oregon, where I didn't realize it was unusual for women to want to be into those fields, because I was surrounded by women who were doing that.
So you didn't grow up wanting to be an astronaut. That came later.
When I was young, there were no women astronauts. I wanted to be in the Air Force. I wanted to be in the Air Force just like my dad. And I wanted to be an engineer.
But after she graduated from the academy, she had the opportunity to meet the trailblazing astronaut Sally Ride. But the IMAX movie, The Dream is Alive, really gave her the itch to leave this planet.
I walked out of these experiences going, wow, this would be a really cool thing to do.
Now, tell me about that moment, when you blasted off. What was that like?
I remember thinking about my family and hoping that they were somewhere with a good view.
When you looked down at Earth for the first time, describe that moment.
I looked out the window and said, oh, this is just like an IMAX movie.
What was the kind of simple pleasure that you missed the most when you were up there?
We didn't have a chance to smell fresh air or forests or sparkling water or anything like that. We were living in a very sterile laboratory environment.
Why is it so important to keep reaching out and keep looking out there and getting as far as possible and learning as much as we can about space?
I think a lot of this is trying to understand ourselves. We want to understand where we came from. We want to understand the genesis of who we are and how we came to be. And what we see out there beyond Earth could hold some of those secrets.
She logged 211 days in space in her 2 missions with NASA and still holds the world record for the longest spacewalk, 8 hours, 56 minutes.
Anything else on your bucket list? What else do you want to do? You've done a lot.
I would like to take that road trip to Alaska, because Alaska looks amazing from space.
But there's one incident that hangs like a dark cloud over her distinguished career, one she hasn't spoken about publicly until now.
Sexual assault is, in fact, a horrible crime that has to be held accountable.
In 2012, a military panel found an Air Force captain guilty of sexual assault. But as commander, Lieutenant General Helms had the final say.
I'd seen plenty of cases to get a sense of what was substantive evidence. And it just wasn't there, in my view, in this case.
She dismissed the sexual assault charge, a choice that later cost her the position of Vice Commander of Space Command, her nomination blocked by one senator.
This young man's life probably was a more important thing to consider than my future career.
And Susan has no regrets.
I would do nothing different today.
That's true of this case and all the choices she made before. And here's her advice for the rest of us.
Go after the things that you really, really love and do really well at it, and a lot of doors will open.
She was so interesting. I could have talked to her for hours, but it was cool because this was at the Space Foundation Discovery Center.
I was wondering where that's a pretty cool place.
We didn't go to NASA or anything, but just a cool place to walk around. But you could see some of the equipment that she used.
On display there.
Yes, exactly,
cool.
on display. So that was really neat. But she was actually inducted into the Colorado Women's Hall of Fame. This year, she's the keynote speaker for the Southern Colorado Women's Chamber Annual Accolades Luncheon. That is a week from today, and I'm emceeing it, so I'm excited to sit at the table and talk to her again.
Wow.
That's at the Antlers Hotel, and you can find all the information and get tickets to that on our website. That's fox21news.com.
She's the kind of figures they make action figures about.
Yeah, totally.
I could see her in the future. Cool.